You clicked on this video for one of two reasons. First off, you're a sicko that just wants to see me annihilate podcast thumbnails. Or secondly, you're looking to improve your own podcast thumbnail. Either way, I'm gonna give you both. For anyone that's new here, my name is Kaleb Karnow. I have been working with Impulsive Podcasts for the last 6 years, and among all of my responsibilities, one of the main things that I do is have my hand in creating every single Impulsive Podcast thumbnail. In today's video, I'll be roasting 4 podcast thumbnails from people within my community, and I won't be holding back. And also, they gave me permission to roast their content. And also, you'll learn some quality insights on what I actually look for when it comes to a viral podcast thumbnail. So lock in and open up Photoshop, unless you're a Canva editor. In that case, bless your heart. Now, as we start off, we're gonna start off with this one right here. Okay, you got Mark Cuban, and there's a million ways to make $1 million. I think the first off, what's really good is they're using colors that pop. They're using that blue, they're using the yellow, and it's overall a pretty solid thumbnail. Now, one of the big issues that I have with this is there's almost too much words going on. The issue is you got small letters here, you got small letters here. You almost don't even know where to look with your eyes. What I look at right away is million ways, $1 million. That doesn't really make any sense. You have to understand, oh, okay, there's a million ways to make $1 million featuring Mark Cuban. It's a little bit too confusing. And what goes hand in hand with some of the words is that numbers are gonna be better than words. So if there's 1 million ways to make $1 million, instead of the words $1 million, why don't you just put $1 million in there? I think that would be a lot more beneficial. One of the last things that I don't love about this thumbnail is it comes across, instead of a podcast thumbnail, comes across a little bit more as a speaking engagement thumbnail. So this almost seems like a Mark Cuban keynote rather than a podcast. So you have to just be a little bit careful with that. Don't mind the branding in the corner, nice and subtle. And overall, it's a pretty good thumbnail. I would probably do my best to simplify it just a little bit, make the words a little bit more simple. And overall, I'm gonna give it a 7.5 out of 10. Next, we're gonna zoom out, boom, zoom right in. We got this one with Grant Cardone and Shane, I believe his name is. First thing that I like is the text pops out pretty well. I like how it says, I paid $600 million all cash. Quotes are gonna be very powerful, so it's good that you got it in quotes. It's good that you got colors that are popping, okay? So $600 million is also a very big number, so perfect. You got somebody engaged with that. Now, the only issue is there's not too much separation from the background with this. Maybe add some drop shadow in there for a little bit more separation. And you gotta remember, in this case, if I'm reading this correctly, I believe this is Shane's podcast, and Grant is on the podcast. I would, I know this is a little bit nitpicky, but put Grant in front of Shane just because you want the guest to take a little bit of the shine over the host of the podcast. So that one's a little bit nitpicky, but also I think is still pretty useful. Overall, the quality of the faces could be a little bit better. Maybe throw it into something like Topaz Labs. And I almost feel like this podcast thumbnail needs a little bit more color. There's some color with the yellow right here, but it just overall seems pretty bland. It doesn't get me that excited to click on it. So maybe add a little bit more flair here and there and kind of come back with a little bit of a second version. But overall, I'd probably give this one a 6.5 out of 10. Now let's look at number 3. Okay. Let me preface this by saying I do not speak whatever language this is. Okay. I know Anyo's year or something, right? Don't flame me for that. I don't know. Maybe. But overall, I like how there seems to be some flair in this thumbnail. It seems to be pretty simple to understand, even though I don't even speak this language. So this money stack in the middle makes me think, okay, this is probably about an easy way to go from 0 to $1 million. Boom, I'm able to understand that without even speaking that language, which is perfect. That's exactly what you want. I don't mind the episode number over here that, it's nice and small. I would say the quality of the faces are pretty decent here. Nice job. I don't know how much maybe you need, maybe you can cut off the ear a little bit. It's not that appealing kind of having those full ears in there. It doesn't really add too much, but once again, a little bit nitpicky. I love how the text, boom, I love these little things right here that adds some flair to it, and how it's not just, you got some gradient up here with the white going to a little bit darker, and then the yellow text is pretty unique. I think one of the main things that I would change is you have all of this dead space at the bottom. Not very ideal. What I want you to do is move it down a little bit, okay? Utilize it. Move down this text just that little bit, and you should have more face so it's not pressed up against the chin. And I think that would actually leave you with a much better thumbnail. If you put all of the words not exceeding like this line right here, okay? So basically where this, you know, the top of these yellow letters are, I think you'll be in a lot better position. And then maybe if you wanted to add like a little bit more color and some simplicity with everything, you can put this in red and then this in green, almost to just make it easier for that person to follow along. But very nitpicky overall, I'm gonna give it a solid 8.3 out of 10. I think it's a pretty useful thumbnail and solid thumbnail. The quality is there. It just needs a couple slight fixes and you're good to go. Now, as we get to this final one, here we go. Now, this is obviously within the financial niche. I think the colors overall are pretty good when it comes to the text here and it being able to stand out. But I think the words are a little bit too big, so they don't stand out as much. I would maybe make the words a little bit smaller, keep the same red text boxes around, but make the words a little bit smaller. And I really like this yellow border around the sides. I think that makes it unique. I think it can make it stand out just that extra little bit more from everybody else. Now, if there's some things that I would improve upon, I actually don't mind this face off here. The only issue is it might end up even looking better if you put it on this side, based on kind of how his eyes are looking. If this was on this side and then all this other stuff was on the right side, that could work. Based on maybe some of his other thumbnails, if he's always on the right side, then don't worry about it. But it could work out if he's on the left side. Now, this is the only issue that I have with this thumbnail right here, or one of the big issues I have with this thumbnail right here. This is one of those scenarios where it might be a little bit too complicated to understand. So if this is a financial thing and you're talking about Vanguard, and if it's all financial, it's all Bitcoin and money, and then you got some boats in there, a boat from the, 1600s or whatever it is, and it's like stocks going down. I don't know how much correlation really there is with that. I think this would improve if it was just a much simpler picture in the middle depicting Vanguard stock. I think this is a unique thumbnail. This almost seems like something that is probably generated within Midjourney or Grok or anything, and I love the creativity behind it, but also understanding at the end of the day, how does it tie in with your thumbnail and making it not as complicated at the end of the day. When it comes to this text up here, one of the last things that I would do maybe is you have exit liquidity in green. I would maybe actually put that in red to make that stand out even more, because that's a more triggering word than Vanguard. So put Vanguard maybe in green and then exit liquidity in red. I think that can make it stand out. But overall, I would give this thumbnail probably a solid 7 out of 10. Definitely some improvements in there, but overall just trying to make it more simple, more simplistic, and I think it could definitely benefit. And then, what we got? What we got there? Oh, we got there a 10 out of 10 thumbnail. Oh, would you look at that? How did that get in there? Nah, but I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to join the community where I look at your thumbnails, hundreds of other people look at your thumbnails within the community, as well as we look at your clips, your full-length podcast to see what you're doing right, what you could improve upon. It's the first link in the description. If you're interested, I'll see you inside.